What happens when Canada's closest ally shifts? Our own politics heat up, and fans in Ottawa get ready to cheer on Team Canada. All on the coldest day of the month. Let's dig in. First, a quick check on today's Ottawa weather. High around -12 degrees, low near -26 degrees, no snow. If you're looking for a warm community vibe despite the deep freeze, CBC Ottawa and the Ottawa Public Library are teaming up at Ben Franklin Place for a free, family-friendly watch party of the Olympic women's hockey quarterfinals. Expect activities and some exclusive giveaways. And across the country, CBC/Radio Canada is inviting libraries to host free watch parties for the 2026 Winter Games, with toolkits for the first 1,000 that sign up. There's also a Team Canada FanFest rolling out. Athletes, trivia, photo ops, and yes, heated Rivalry's Shane Hollander's Team Canada fleece is getting a retail release thanks to fan demand. To the big cross-border question shaping so much of our world, how to understand the United States right now. Former UN Ambassador Bob Rae offered a Canadian lens, drawing on a childhood spent in Washington during the rise of the Civil Rights Movement and the election of President Kennedy. He talks about learning American politics not from textbooks, but from a paper route and a spelling bee, and he uses those stories to remind us the Canada-US relationship is long, layered, and best navigated with clear eyes about the differences between their parties and ours. That perspective matters as trade tensions drag on. We're seeing some Canadians vote with their wallets, shifting to local products as a political statement. In British Columbia, demand for American goods has reportedly dropped about 40% over the past year. But there's a reality check. Only about 15% of Canadian spending is actually at small businesses. When we do spend locally, more of each dollar stays put. Roughly 66 cents versus about 11 cents at big box stores. Still, small firms here face higher taxes than counterparts just across the border in Washington state. And there's a worry the initial energy behind boycotting U.S. products is fading as people get used to the rhetoric. All this is happening while Canada, the U.S., and Mexico work through CUSMA talks to blunt the impact of tariffs. Zooming out to Ottawa's center stage, Prime Minister Mark Carney is reshaping the conversation and stirring controversy. He says a spectrum of MPs is attracted to his governing approach, helping push the Liberals toward a majority after recent floor crossings from the Conservatives. He's also drawing fire for remarks about the historical French-English partnership in Canada, criticized by Parti Québécois leader Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon as federalist pressure against Quebec independence. And Carney's comments abroad are making waves at home. He's cast doubt on the old, rules-based international order, arguing it no longer functions as intended, and that middle powers must adapt to a world of great power rivalry. Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe and others balked at Carney's New World Order phrasing during his China visit. On the other side of the aisle, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is in bridge-building mode with provincial counterparts. His campaign manager, Steve Outhouse, seen as a peacemaker, is working to mend ties with Ontario's Doug Ford and Nova Scotia's Tim Houston. Poilievre faces a critical leadership review at the party convention and needs a strong mandate to avoid a new leadership contest. Some members say he'll want a margin comparable to Stephen Harper's in 2005 to quiet critics. Polls show a tight race between Conservatives and Liberals, but with Poilievre less personally popular than Carney. The economic backdrop to all this: central bankers staying the course. The Bank of Canada is holding its benchmark rate at 2.25%, with Governor Tiff Macklem flagging unusually high uncertainty. CUSMA negotiations and broader geopolitical risks loom large. The bank warns that if exemptions for CUSMA-compliant goods were to be pulled back, the hit to the Canadian economy could be real. South of the border, the U.S. Federal Reserve is holding at 3.6% after 3 cuts last year, citing solid growth and a steady job market, while staying cautious until inflation moves closer to 2%. President Trump has criticized the Fed for not cutting more aggressively, adding political pressure to the mix. The trade and industrial story has a human face in Oshawa. GM says its plant will lose a third shift by January 2026, about 750 workers directly affected, with roughly 1,500 more in the supply chain. Some residents are weighing relocation as unemployment bites. GM is adding 250 temporary jobs in Fort Wayne, Indiana, to ramp up production of Chevrolet Silverados and the company postponed the Oshawa midnight shift cut to 2026 after lobbying by Unifor and government officials. U.S. tariffs on finished vehicles and parts are a big factor here, steering corporate decisions and exposing the fragility of integrated supply chains. National security is also in the spotlight. U.S. Ambassador Pete Hoekstra is warning that NORAD operations may change if Canada doesn't move ahead with purchasing 88 F-35s, potentially meaning more U.S. aerial operations in Canadian airspace. There's another angle in the Arctic. Canada helping build U.S. icebreakers for northern operations could one day empower actions that challenge Canadian sovereignty. The long-standing tension dates back at least to 1985, when a U.S. Coast Guard vessel transited the Northwest Passage without Canada's permission. Former National Security Advisor Vincent Rigby says Hoekstra's comments can't be ignored, but shouldn't be taken as official U.S. policy. It's a reminder that defense and sovereignty questions, especially in the Arctic, often sit at the intersection of geopolitics, law, and the realities of operating in the North. On the tech and accountability front, Canadian companies are under scrutiny for ties to U.S. immigration enforcement. Hootsuite faces criticism over a Department of Homeland Security contract for social media services, reportedly worth up to $2.8 million US through a partner. Democracy Rising plans a protest at Hootsuite's Vancouver headquarters, demanding the deal be cancelled and an apology issued. This comes amid backlash against ICE after agent-involved shootings in Minnesota. Vancouver-based Jim Pattison Group is in the spotlight as DHS moves to convert one of its Virginia properties into an ICE processing facility. Hanover County says it didn't initiate the project and is seeking legal advice on zoning related to federal uses. For Canadians concerned about how homegrown tech and infrastructure are used abroad, especially as AI-driven analysis becomes more pervasive, these cases raise tough ethical questions. Let's turn to hoops. The Toronto Raptors had a rough night against the New York Knicks, falling 119-92. Toronto led by as many as 12 early, but the wheels came off in the final 15 minutes. Mikal Bridges dropped 30, including a scorching 19 in the third quarter that flipped the game. Karl Anthony Towns was quiet scoring, but hauled in a season-high 22 rebounds. Former Raptor OG Anunoby stung his old team with 26 points and a career-high 6 steals. The Knicks have now won 4 in a row and 11 straight against Toronto. Turnovers killed the Raptors, especially during a 13-0 third-quarter run by New York. Depth and adaptability carried the Knicks despite missing Mitchell Robinson and Miles McBride. For Toronto, it's a film session kind of loss. Protect the ball, steady the rotations, and stop the bleeding in the third. Before we wrap, a quick through line. From Bob Ray's reminder to truly understand American politics, to Carney's recalibration of Canada's place in a shifting world, to trade tensions that change what's on our shelves and who's working our assembly lines. These stories all come back to how Canada positions itself, economically, ethically, and strategically, when the ground keeps moving under our feet. If you head to the women's hockey watch party at Ben Franklin Place, bundle up. High around -12 degrees, low near -26 degrees, no snow, and bring your loudest cheer. Team Canada can use it. That's it for today. If you found this roundup useful, share it with a neighbor, and we'll be back tomorrow with more local Ottawa stories, national context, and the tech and climate angles shaping our lives.